Hi, everyone. Joining us today. I'm going to give everyone a few seconds to kind of hop in here, but we're going to do some welcome and housekeeping stuff before we get started. So as you can see on the right-hand side of your screen, there's a chat feature. We really encourage you to use it. I would love to know where you're chiming in from, what you're most excited about in the NIL space while we're waiting for everyone to log in. And just to give you all a heads up, you can drop your questions in that chat during Maribeth's session, and we'll have a long-form Q&A session after this is over where we'll get to all of your questions and try to help you guys out as much as possible about pitching your NIL course. We also have some exciting StuKent events coming up that I want to let you know about. We have a StuKent product launch happening on April 29th, and our ProfCon is coming up this summer. And you can register for both of those events at our StuKent.com events page. That'll be popping up on your screen right now. Let's see, looks like we have some people chiming in. Kara from WSU, excited to see how women athletes are using it. That's awesome. Chad, welcome. Happy to be here with you. Everyone else can feel free to chime in. Let us know your name, where you're chiming in from, and what you're excited about in the NIL space. We are super excited for our NIL courseware, and we know that a lot of you are excited for it too. I know Maribeth is excited to be here as well. Let's see, we have Kim coming in from the University of Memphis, Patrick signing in from Arkansas, Kevin from Marshall University, welcome. Sonia Hayes from Raleigh, North Carolina. Excited to build an NIL strategy collective for NC State. That's awesome. Sweet. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming in today. I just want to remind you, so we will be talking about the NIL courseware, and we have the bundle for you. So we have the name, image, and likeness course, that's personal branding strategies for student athletes. And we have our Mimic NIL simulation for your students to get hands-on experience with personal branding and practice for your student athletes. And without further ado, it looks like we have lots of you chiming in here. I would love to introduce Dr. Maribeth Kuzmeski. She is a professor in the Spears School of Business at Oklahoma State University, teaches several marketing courses, including personal branding, name, image, and likeness. Maribeth is also the president of Red Zone Marketing, an award-winning marketing consulting firm with clients across the United States. She has a BA from the Newhouse School of Public Communications at Syracuse University, an MBA from the George Washington University, and a PhD in business administration for Oklahoma State. Needless to say, Maribeth is an absolute rock star, and I do not doubt that you guys are going to get so much out of this webinar today. And I'll turn it over to you, Maribeth.
Well, thank you very much. So what I've been asked to talk about today isn't just about the courseware itself, but how do you get this courseware set up? Because one of the things that I've been fielding a lot of calls on, and I think StuKent has as well, is as it relates to this courseware, this has never been taught before. This isn't like, you know, every school already has this and we're just pulling it off the shelf and going to be teaching it. This is all new. NIL is all new. This course is all new. And so I just wanted to walk through how I did it. And also, I would love to get your questions and be able to answer them, and maybe even other people on the call can answer them as it relates to how to get this course in the lineup at your university. It has been something that I have been super passionate about, which is why I wrote the courseware, but I'm super passionate about it because it actually matters for a lot of reasons. So I'm going to go through a quick presentation of some of the things that I did to get this courseware lined up at Oklahoma State University. And then again, I'd love to answer any questions that you might have. Okay, so let's go to this next slide here. Oh, that's me. Okay, so how did I start this course? I've gotten this question a few times. And so for me, this is how this started. It wasn't me deciding to do this course, which in a lot of cases is probably some of you on the call today, that you've decided that this is a really good idea to teach a course like this. In my case, I was the athletic department wanted a course taught like this. So the athletic department talked to the business school. The dean ended up coming to me to say, hey, I know you have student athletes in your family. Would you like to, or could you teach a course like this? And of course I said, absolutely, I would love to do it. This is right up my alley. I would love to do it. So that's how it happened for me. And then the business school was behind it from the very beginning. So it made it easier for me. But I think there's other professors who I've talked to who say, hey, listen, I think this is a great idea for the university. I want to pitch this. And some of it is, what school do you pitch it in? How does it all work? So I'm just going to go through a few things and we'll talk about it. So for me, it was the athletic department to the business school. I've talked to a lot of I've talked to a lot of professors who are teaching this, within the business school, sports management, marketing, but also communications and media. So it public relations and things like that. So it falls into a few different categories. And I think that that's an important thing to know, because it doesn't just sit in one spot. So where can this course exist? For me and for Oklahoma State, it exists in the marketing department. It also exists in the sports management department at a lot of universities because of the word sports. Hey, you're in sports management. How about you teach this course on marketing? And so that's another place where we've seen this come up quite a bit. And then also in public relations, and it does work in public relations. Now, there are some conflicts when you think about public relations and even entrepreneurship, because what happens is it's a different school than business. And now we're talking about personal branding and marketing. It does a conflict with the business school. And so those are some of the things that we just have to work on, some of the wording. If you want to teach it from a communication school, or you want to teach it from the business school, there's going to be some overlap. And how do you do that without getting involved in all of the interesting politics that I've been learning about in the university system? So, all right, I'm going to hold for a second and look at a few questions. Let's see. Yeah, so entrepreneurship is another place. And actually, that's where the athletic department thought that this course would end up, would be in entrepreneurship, because it's really like you're teaching a student athlete or anyone to become an entrepreneur. We pulled it in the marketing department and went along the personal branding side, but it can be either. Are there others who are having to pitch a course that might be supplemental to the main NIL course? So that's a good question, and you guys may want to answer that question on the chat if there's any others who are pitching a course that's a supplemental to the main course. So of course, I think that the personal branding, name, image, and likeness is the main course, but there's also main courses that might have started in law, that might have started in different areas. And so this could be, and it absolutely could be, a supplement falling in an area probably within the business school. But again, these are questions that I'd love to get some feedback from the rest of you. Another question Kelly has is, do you primarily teach this to student athletes? Who else do you see taking the course? I'm going to answer that question in a second. So the thing I think that's really interesting is there's a lot of stuff out on the internet about personal branding, name, image, and likeness now. This courseware is taught at accredited universities. And not only is it being taught at Oklahoma State University, and I've been teaching the course in a 1-credit version online. I also teach it, and I'm going to be teaching in the fall in a 3-credit in person. And we'll talk about who this course could be taught to. But I think these are important things, that this is an accredited academic program. This isn't a program you're going to find out on the internet. This is an academic theory and concepts, and putting it into play. So getting started, you think about your university and your objectives. So my university told me what their objectives were. Part of it was education, part of it was providing resources to the student athletes. Part of it was assisting their student athletes and saying, hey, we are providing you with resources. And a lot of universities are being asked, the students are asking, hey, what resources do you provide to student athletes for name, image, and likeness? And a lot of universities say, we're working on it. And others say, we've got it. And in some cases, at some universities, I think it's been just checking a box saying, yep, we've been providing education. But a real course on how student athletes can deal with all the things that are surrounded around NIL. I mean, it's a whole different thing. And, recruiting, it's very important in recruiting because the student athletes who are not at your university yet are going to say things like, well, how are you guys doing with your NIL? Am I going to make any money when I go to Oklahoma State or wherever it is? Is there anyone having success there? And they can point to different things and different success stories, and they can point to the fact that, hey, we've got courseware, we help you really learn about all of this NIL. So it's important. So who should take this course? Back to the question that Kelly was asking. So in my course, it was primarily designed for student athletes. Now, the NCAA says you can't just have a course for student athletes. It has to be open to all students. And actually, we have a lot of students who are not student athletes who are taking the course. So we've got marketing students, people who are interested in personal branding. We actually have a lot of our brand squad students. So if you've been on another webinar of mine, I'm always talking about the brand squad, but the brand squad is like a marketing club for our student athletes. And I can talk about that more later if anyone's interested in that. But my brand squad students in the club that we created need to get certified. So they take the course so that they know how to help student athletes. So it's actually, there's a lot of different people. And we have actually some students who just want to be influencers. This is the only course we have at Oklahoma State that's even close to that. And so they're taking this course. So there's a lot of different kinds of students that can take this course. But it was initially designed just for student athletes. It's just that it's a good course for a lot of other people as well. And so I think when you're introducing this course, you just have to have a really strong why. Why would I teach this course? And so there's a lot of reasons why you may teach the course, but I think having that strong why is the first thing to talk about. So this was our strong why, but your strong why might include some of the things that I talked about before, which might be education, providing resources, assisting student athletes. It could be a lot of these things that are part of the strong why. So Patrick has a question from past conversations. Is the lack of different states having different laws and different levels of college athletics and how to best proceed, as well as the NCAA just trying to review NIL policies, tough to navigate this? Yes, it is very tough to navigate. So I am in contact with our athletic department at Oklahoma State on a regular basis, telling them what we're doing, who we're teaching, who's in the class, what's happening. They're not telling me what to do, and I'm not telling them what to do. And we're not getting involved in deal opportunities. Like, they're not telling me, hey, go get a deal for this student athlete. That's not what's happening at all. We are educational. We are helping the student athletes get their brand set up. That's what this course is all about. And yes, they are getting deals, and yes, that's happening, but it's not like we're going out and pitching these deals for them. We're not an agency. That's not what we are designed to do. We help them facilitate the deals, but we are not, as a university employee, I am not facilitating deals for student athletes. I'm not. So there's lots of things that are happening. And yes, different states have different rules. Overall, the NCAA, and we have a certification, an NIL compliance certification with Stukin that I'll talk about in a second, because there are so many laws and they change so often. So we've got this NIL compliance certification that can also, if you wanted to, you could say, okay, this is a great certification. And at our university, we also have these other rules, because every university has their own ways of dealing with the logo and the licensing and what a university employee can do and can't do and all of those kinds of things. At our university at Oklahoma State, they say that people that are employees of the athletic department cannot go out and get deals for student athletes. That's how their ruling looks, but every university is different. But most of all, the NCAA they put out some interim guidelines on this, and then they've kind of just walked away from it. Our Oklahoma State is trying to find more information about, hey, what are you guys going to do next? What's the next ruling going to be? And I don't know that there is going to be one. So I think that the way to deal with this is educational. This is something that is going to help our student athletes. This is something that they need. And it's not just about a student athlete. This course and this courseware teaches them all sorts of things that they can use beyond being a student athlete or beyond being a college student. How are you going to take these skills? We have a whole chapter in the book, and it's consistent all the way through. How are you going to take these skills that you're learning right now on how to get more followers and improve your brand and do all the things that we do in the course to help you once you're out of college, once you're trying to get a job, once, all these skills are really helpful moving forward. Okay, so once your students get certified and take your course, they can then join the brand squad and help their fellow student athletes to find deals. So that is correct. In essence, yes, our brand squad students need to take certification. They need to be certified in brand. They need to be certified in compliance. We also have them sign a non-disclosure. All of those certifications are available through the courseware at Stukent, and we will be constantly changing those as the rules change, as the NCAA comes in and says, oh yeah, by the way, we just changed the rules. Fine. Our compliance training will change immediately. Everything will change so that it's always going to be up to date. But yes, we have to have our students in the brand squad go through certification, because if they don't, then it's more willy-nilly than it already is right now. So it's just it's an interesting world that we're all living in, this NIL world. Okay, so the course proposal, any kind of a course proposal would include, hey, should this be hybrid, online, face-to-face? I actually teach it I will be teaching it in both online and face-to-face coming up in the fall. It has just been online prior to this, but it's kind of like a hybrid online, just because I'm still meeting face-to-face with the student athletes, but it's just not, we have a course, that meets on Mondays and Wednesdays at 10:30. We will have that in the fall. So we'll have both versions, online 1 credit and face-to-face 3 credits. I got a question from our university saying, hey, are the courses different? And they are essentially different courses, because we're doing so much more in the 3 credit course than obviously we are in the online course. Does the brand squad blueprint come with the course proposal? We've got a brand squad blueprint. In fact, I did a whole webinar on how to start a brand squad at your university. We've got some of the rules and what we did to create the brand squad. And I'd be happy to talk to you about that, or you could watch the webinar, or, we have to think about what are the most important things in starting a brand squad. And number one, it is the certifications. It's number one. They have to be able to go through the course and take the certification. So we're not sending out students working with our student athletes that don't really know what's happening. And that's critical, because I'd hate it for it to get, especially for me, I'm scared that it would get away from me, that I'd have students advising other students doing things. No, everybody has to know the rules and the best practices for name, image, and likeness personal branding. So in the course proposal, you obviously would have a course description, course objectives, student learning outcomes, and a sample syllabus. We have all of this already developed for you. So we've got the course description that's already developed. If anyone wants to, pitch this, we've got that developed. We've got our course objectives. There's a lot of them. I've got 2 slides filled with course objectives, but we've put them together based on what this courseware and the simulation are all about. We've got the student learning outcomes. So what are the students going to get out of this? Well, we focused it really specifically on the student athletes, but it can be focused however you want. But there are some very significant student learning outcomes. And one of the things that I think is the best thing about this courseware is it allows them to work on their own stuff. So the simulation walks through the best practices of how we do this, and the courseware talks about that. But then in the assignments that are part of this courseware, they actually get to do their own brand. Very rarely in marketing or any other course do you as a student get to work on your own stuff. And that's what they get to do in this, which I think is is what makes it so interesting, because they're not just doing exercises and doing cases and doing things. They're actually working on their own social media, their own differentiation statement, their own brand audit, and it makes it much more personable. And they don't miss class. Like they're involved in the class in a totally different way. So we also have a sample syllabus that's available, which walks through everything, including the sample, how the semester would go if it was a 3-credit course, and how the semester would go if it was a 1-credit course. We have both of those included in there, because in the very beginning, I mean, I was only teaching it as a 1-credit course, and now I'm teaching it both. So we've got that laid out in both ways. And, in the digital text, we've got all of the different chapters that are available. And I've talked about this, and I'm not going to go through and rehash every single thing that we have inside of the digital text. But it's basically a personal branding course specifically designed for those that are looking to be influencers or looking to monetize their name, image, and likeness in this case. But it's definitely all of the pieces that are necessary to go into that. And the simulation, just a little information about the simulation, but this is a way that the students can test out how this is going to work. They can test pitches, they can test other things, and they can see how the reactions are going to be and really get ready for the real deal. So this is also, the simulation is super helpful in doing this. Let's see if we've got any other questions. Oh, okay. We just have some links in there. And then these are the 2 certifications that we have right now. I think that both of them are super important. I don't think that you would do one and not the other. But the certification in personal branding is basically, after you take the course, you go through and do an exam on figuring out, did I really capture all of this information? And is somebody ready to go out and be able to, for instance, help a student athlete with their name, image, and likeness? The compliance certification is just that's a must-have. And especially as things are changing and that they will continue to change, you've got to have something that's just going to make sure that everyone is staying on the up and up. And the other thing with the compliance certification is that we're putting together a panel right now of some of the top lawyers and people that are involved in NIL that are going to be constantly looking at our compliance certification to make sure that they agree with what's there, so that it's not just, us taking a look at a few things and putting a certification together. This is a lot of different people that are integrating into this to make sure that it is up to date based on everything that's going on. If you're in a Division 3 school, if you're a Division 1 school, are there differences? Are there changes? And so that is how this is going to work. So question, how many folks have already have an NIL specific course in the university category? Oh yeah. Okay. I can tell you this, that with this courseware is going to be taught starting in the summer and definitely in the fall at schools like Alabama, at Texas in Austin, at Syracuse, and of course at Oklahoma State University. But there's a lot of courses there's a lot of schools who are starting to opt into this particular courseware. And so and Stuart has a question here. Let's see. And the certification is in the course if you get the bundle. So if you get the NIL personal branding courseware and the Mimic simulation, then the 2 certifications are included in that. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so another thing that we have, and I think this also makes it, and we just talked before we got on this webinar, we've got all sorts of experts who want to participate in this courseware. And I just had someone come to me who's a professor, and she teaches media training. And so we want to have media training for our student athletes. and for anyone who takes this course. So she's going to do an expert session on media training. We're going to have an expert session on finances, because that's really important. And this course isn't about finances, but it matters. And we're also going to have an expert session on contracts. So what's an example of a good contract, bad contract? And we have a chapter where we talk about that, but bringing in an expert who's a lawyer who's going to talk about some of the things that she's seen. And we will continually update those expert sessions so that we are bringing in the latest and greatest of people who are dealing with this all over the place, inside universities, outside universities. There's all sorts of businesses that have popped up that are NIL and what's good and what's not good, and sort of creating a consortium for all of this NIL stuff that's happening. Okay, let's see. Yeah. So is there an additional fee for the certifications? And the answer is no. If you buy the bundled courseware, no, there's no additional fee for that. So that is good, because it's just in my opinion, it's a must-have with this brand new world that we're in. And so just to reiterate, in the courseware, what we have is a digital textbook. It's, you've got the syllabus, the lesson plans, we've got the lecture slides all done, quizzes and quiz review slides, the exam, assignment selections. So we've got a whole bunch of assignments that you can choose from. I use all of the assignments that are in there. So they are not like just, these are ones that are tested. We have used these assignments and they really work. And then also you've got the simulation. And in addition to that, a bottom check mark should be certifications. So Brand Squad, I don't want to just talk all about the Brand Squad, but the Brand Squad, again, is like a marketing club that we developed. I'm the advisor of the marketing club at Oklahoma State. So we just kind of pulled some of our students and said, hey, does anyone want to help our student athletes with marketing their name, image, and likeness, with their personal brand, with getting their social media set up, cleaned up, putting their brand together. So if a business comes and says, wow, this is really great, we help them get verified on Instagram. We do a logo for them so that they can develop their own merchandise if that's something they want to do. So we have the Brand Squad, and the Brand Squad is definitely a really cool thing to start at your university. If anyone's interested in that, I will definitely talk to you offline, or again, we've got that webinar that I did before. Okay, so let's see if we've got any questions. Kelly says, in most cases, do you see schools, whether business communications, partner with their athletic department when pitching this course? I don't know if my business school would get behind it. It's a pain to get a new course approved. Yes, at every school, I think it is. But if I had the athletic department interested, the B school might. Yes. So that's kind of how it happened for me. I think if I would have gone to the dean myself and said, hey, I want to teach this new course. Now, I have done that before, and I have gotten some new courses, but this is totally new. Like, this is not even anything that anyone has ever had before. It helps to have the athletic department involved, because the athletic department has a vested interest in making sure that the student athletes are really, that they're putting out a good, positive personal brand. It actually matters. Okay, so let's see, what other questions do we have here? How long are certifications for? Is there a renewal or recertification required? Certifications are good for 2 years. So that's good news. And I think that if there are any material changes with, like, really material changes with the certifications, which could be, we will issue updates and things like that. Okay, so Raymond says, how do I pitch this to a booster club supporting NIL for my son's university? So, yeah, I mean, if you're like alumni, is that what the question is, Raymond? Like, how do I pitch doing? So this is an academic course. So this would be a course that you would, you could talk to the boosters, who would then talk to the academics, who would then get the course aligned, I suppose. And I hope I answered that question correctly. Will we get a recorded version of this? Yes. This is recorded, and there will be a version of it. Absolutely. Okay. So questions. I think we've got all of the pieces that you would need to put a course proposal together for this, I don't know that the proposal itself is the issue. I think it's a new course, and who do I talk to, and how can I get some traction on this? And those are the things that I think are really important. But this is, I mean, you know, I mentioned the universities before that have already said that they're going to teach this course, and I think we're starting at some really big universities, including my alma mater of Syracuse, which I love. But we've got all of these schools who are trying to figure this out. So the one thing that I do know is if you're trying to figure this out, you are not alone. Everybody is kind of trying to figure this out. And the people that have connection to all sorts of people that are trying to figure this out is Stukent, because of this, because we've got the first courseware, and we are really, spending as much time as we need to talk to professors to figure out how to do this. I spend a lot of time myself trying to help professors. Should this be in the communications area? How do we do this without making the business school mad? All of those kinds of things, so that we get this done. Okay, so NIL collectives typically exist outside the university and booster clubs, but those groups can put you in contact with those NIL groups who should be interested in doing this. Yeah, so collectives are separate from any university, but they have a lot of connections within the university. Collectives, our collective at Oklahoma State, which has not been announced yet, but our collective at Oklahoma State is going to have all of their student athletes who opt into our collective at Oklahoma State go through the brand squad with our trained student athletes. So they don't have to take this course, but they have to go through and at least get the brand squad training, which means we've got to have, we have to have over 200 members of the brand squad who've been certified, and then continue that process, because we've got 500 student athletes, and all 500 aren't going to opt into the collective, but a lot of them are. And so we've got to be ready for that. Okay, so have you, or do you know others who have taught this outside of a university setting? I'm thinking about contact I have it at NIL company. Yeah, I do not know anyone who's taught this courseware outside of the university. We've designed it to be a course that's taught inside of a university. But I would talk to Stukent about that, and they may know more about if others have tried to use this as something that you would do outside of the university setting. But I certainly think that it would work outside of that, but this is designed as an academic courseware. So, other questions from anyone? Just as a side note, I'm really excited about this courseware. You probably can tell, and the brand squad and everything that we're doing. It's just, it has been such a rejuvenation for me. I've been a professor. This is I'm ending my 4th year as a professor. So I got my PhD a little bit later in life. And so this has been just absolutely awesome for me. And I think that you guys will find the same thing as you start teaching this course and getting involved with the student athletes and brand squad and everything else. So it is really interesting. Okay, so yeah, so John says, I have already heard some parents of high school students asking about NIL. Absolutely. I had a parent ask me who was touring through the business building and was looking in a room where I was teaching, and I'm like, come on in. We were in between classes. And so they came in and they were asking me questions, and the mom asked me about NIL. And I said, well, you're talking to the right person, because here at Oklahoma State, we are doing some of these things. So an option for the students once they go to college, does it make sense to inform guidance counselors about? I mean, guidance counselors, I think everybody needs to know about NIL, because what you don't want to do is make a mistake. There's only one state, maybe more than one state, that even allows high school athletes to involve themselves in NIL deals. You don't want to lose your eligibility in high school. When you're in college, what do you need to do? What do you need to know? I think that guidance counselors, it would be very important to have them know some of this, especially because one of the things that is being looked at, and this is for any student, but is, the social media accounts of the student athletes. What are the student athletes doing? What are they saying in their social media? And would they be a good candidate to come into our university? And so I think that a lot of things matter in a different way than they did before. So Craig says there seems to be a lot of moving parts and vested interests. Are you aware of any legislation on the docket from either the NCAA or Congress that might settle? Yeah, so NCAA has kind of pushed this off and said the states are going to do their thing. What we need to have, honestly, is some national, something that's going to happen in Congress, as you said. That is absolutely the place that it should be, that there should be, because there's not going to be parity anymore. There's an ugly side to NIL, as probably everybody knows. There's an ugly side to it, and what someone said in the athletic department at Oklahoma State, he said, listen, the brand squad and you teaching this course, it's the most wholesome thing about NIL, because there's so many things that you could get caught up in thinking about all the ugly stuff that's happening in NIL. And what do I mean by that? I mean by just money being tossed around. And the thing of it is that that's not what we do at Oklahoma State. We're doing this in a totally different way, and than some of the schools. And who knows what's even true or not. You hear something in the media, you go, did that really happen? But we are trying to keep this, absolutely educational, on the up and up. And although it's kind of a boring word, wholesome. So, okay. Yeah, and I wish there'd be a more structured format of NIL, but right now it just seems like we're going to be in this world for a while. Any other questions from anyone on this call?
Maribeth, it looked like a question came in from Amber. She asked, how many students do you typically have in each section?
Sorry, I missed that one, Amber. I'm trying to look through these. In the beginning, the first time I taught the course, we had 20 student athletes, and it was the online 1-credit version. Now we have a cap for the online version of 50 student athletes. We have 60 scheduled in the fall in person. That's where the rubber's going to really meet the road, because I have my brand squad coming into the class almost as TAs to help, because we're going to be working on stuff in class, and it's going to be a little bit more intense. And we thought capping it at 60 might be a good way to go. But for the online version of this, you could really take it as far as you want, especially if you have support of a brand squad or another place where the student athletes can ask questions, not just you as the professor, but have some other resources to go to. So, but I mean, the more the merrier. I think the more we can get our student athletes in, because they have essentially 4 years in college, and I like to get them in as freshmen, but I'm seeing a lot of seniors in my classes. So that, you got to run it and have as many as you probably can in the course and make it manageable for you. But in the 1-credit, I think you can do a lot more than you could in the 3-credit in person.
Awesome. And Reggie also asked, do you think this could be done as a workshop?
Well, I do workshops on this all the time. So yeah, of course it could be done as a workshop. Yeah, absolutely. It's, a workshop could be, you could take the highlights and the assignments and do it as a workshop. Absolutely. It could be done that way.
Awesome. Everyone can feel free to keep chiming in your questions as we move through, but we do have a couple of handouts for everyone in attendance. So first of all, we're going to go pop up the course proposal. It's completely personalizable for you guys. So as you are going to your universities and pitching the new NIL course, we laid out everything you need to know about our courseware and simulation, as well as the price, the most engaging resources that are in there, this exciting student assignments that you'll be able to find in that. So that's a great starting point for you. And then let's see, it looks like we have more questions coming in. So Lauren, we will pop up instructor access to the NIL bundle for you. So you can go ahead and click that link. Craig says, every state has different academic standards. Are you aware of any NIL courses that have been added to the required curriculum at this point?
I have not seen anything that's required, like a student athlete has to take this course. When we first started talking about this course at Oklahoma State, the athletic department wanted every student athlete to take the course. It is not a requirement at Oklahoma State, and I haven't heard at any other, because if it was a required course, it would have to be part of an athletic department could do that. They could say, hey, listen, business school, can you make this a required course for all student athletes? But so far, I have not heard that that's the case. I know that we have a high proportion of student athletes that are either in the 1 credit or the 3 credit or have taken whatever, but certainly not all.
Awesome. I just want to mention, I know Lauren had brought up requesting access. You can also schedule a demo with a course consultant to see the NIL bundle. So they'll give you a walkthrough of the NIL courseware and simulation, and you can take a look at that. Let's see. Looks like we have more questions coming in. Craig asked, do you foresee it being added to a sports-specific majors in the
absolutely.
near future?
In fact, that's one of the places where I'm seeing this course pop up the most, where it is, a sports management program, and they are first to teach this course. And this is one of the courses that I think will end up to be something that will probably be part of that curriculum on a regular, ongoing basis. So yeah, I think that's one place that makes a lot of sense to have it.
That's super exciting. And Maribeth had mentioned earlier in her presentation the new certifications that are available for the bundle. So we can talk about that for a little bit. So we have a webinar coming up that you're talking about the NIL certifications and updates on May 6th. So we will actually pop up something right now where everyone who's in attendance at this webinar can go ahead and get registered for that one. And you'll get the most up-to-date information about everything that Maribeth is working on in the courseware. Super exciting stuff, Maribeth. Is there anything that you want to add about
I
those?
think with that webinar, we are really going to go through some of the more detailed parts of the certification, so you can see the kinds of questions that we're asking and how we're looking at that and how we got to those certifications. So yeah, I think that'll be a great session to enter in. And so it seems like people are having troubles when they click the link.
We will make sure we get in touch with everyone about that. Let's go ahead and pop a different request access link, and let's go ahead and try that for everyone. So when you get to that request access, or when you hit the link, you'll go to a landing page, and there's a request access button on there, and you'll be able to fill out the form. And if you are having issues, we drop it in the chat, and we can make sure we reach out to you personally to get everyone set up with that. Also, just a heads up, if everyone is excited about the certifications, I know it's something that we are very passionate about on our end. Once you get in and request access, they're already available in the platform. So you will be able to take a look at that prior to the webinar and come prepared with any questions that you might have. Other than that, it looks like we are going to go ahead. We're going to reach out to everyone that's popping up in the chat right now and make sure that we get all of you access to the bundle. Other than that, are any other questions or closing remarks from Maribeth?
No, but thank you guys for joining in. And I don't have anything else to share, but I'm just happy to be a part of this with Stukent. And if anyone wants to reach out to me directly, you can do that as well. It's just my first name dot last name at okstate.edu. So I'd love to hear from you guys. And if there's anything that I can help with, I'm here. So thank you. Thank you for joining in, and maybe we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Maribeth. We always, always, always appreciate having you here. You're such a rock star. And thank you to everyone who attended this webinar. We're excited to be able to reach out to you and talk to you all more about the NIL bundle.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone.